Bug Fables, The Everlasting Sapling, is a turn-based adventure RPG with three main protagonists in a world populated entirely of bugs. It has a combat system, progression system, and general style reminiscent of older Paper Mario games, except it is substantially more difficult. In addition, there are some customizable options within the game to increase difficulty beyond what was originally intended. So I ask the question, is it possible for some raving, masochistic psychopath, in other words me, to try and beat this already hard game with as many restrictions as possible? Before I continue, let me go over the rules. First, the whole game will be played with the Tough Bugs menu code applied, meaning I will not be able to level up normally, I can only perfect block attacks, and enemies are given a massive increase in their stats. Second, any metal that might negatively affect my abilities in combat must be equipped as soon as they are available. This only really refers to the metal's EXP booster and hard hits, which I will elaborate on later. Third, I will not use any TP plus or HP plus metals, nor will I use any item to recover TP. The final restriction is the most flexible one though, as I am not sure it's mathematically viable for me to beat some enemies if I abide by all three rules, so if I find an insurmountable roadblock, or I get lazy, it will be the first to go. The game begins with a PowerPoint presentation about the history of this world, because when I begin a game, the first thing I want to do is read for an extended period of time. There's a lot of information here, but the gist is that there's a tree that will grant eternal life and an ant kingdom that's after it. Once done with the presentation, the game introduces our first protagonist, Kabu. He is green, chivalrous, and chock full of PTSD, so obviously he's my favorite character. Next, we meet Vi, the second player character. She is energetic, bright, and purely motivated by money and her own self-interest. I find her goals of get rich and get richer very compelling, contributing greatly to her status as my favorite character. These two bugs want to become adventurers, but to become adventurers you need to have friends, or friend more specifically, as adventurer teams need to be registered as a duo. Considering they are currently jobless and friendless, Kabu proposes that the two team up to solve one of those problems. To test their resolve, Maki, the Queen's Blade, also known as the most powerful and most useless character in this game, initiates a tutorial section. Although this section is quite literally impossible to lose, I sure get close, missing every block and even having Vi go down. Truly a wonderful start to this run that surely does not act as an omen for what's to come. Once finished with the tutorial, I am told to head to Snakemouth Den in search of a legendary artifact. Cause where else would a legendary artifact be other than a place called Snakemouth Den? So, Team Name Pending heads out on their first adventure. On the way, I hunt the local plant life, mainly just to prove that I was simply rusty in the last fight. Needless to say, it wasn't rust, I am just that bad. After nearly dying to what is effectively a Goomba that is on the opposite of steroids, the team barely stumbles into the most literally named cave in existence. Get it? Because it looks like a snake with its mouth open, but also things live there, so it's a den. Honestly, my biggest question is how these bugs know what a snake is, as this is literally the only snake-like thing in this game. Inside the den, we find some new enemies, which I avoid, and some puzzles that are designed for children. Obviously, since I am not a child, these puzzles take me a while, but after a lot of trial and error, I eventually complete them. As it seems, one of the puzzles was actually a trap, sending Kabu down to the depths of the dungeon with Vi begrudgingly following. Down the hole, the pair discovers a disturbing secret. Within the depths, a live moth was being held captive in a spider web. And my very adult brain can tell you that when there's a spider web, there is likely a spider. The terrifying enemy causes Vi to run from the fight almost as fast as I run from my responsibilities, leaving Kabu to fend for himself. This starts an unwinnable fight where I just have to survive for 3 rounds. Of course, I can't just be expected to survive, so I nearly die instead. After the fight, Vi comes back and a quick verbal exchange later, the fight begins again once more, with the goal now being to free the moth and run. As said before, running from my problems is my strong suit, so this fight is finished quickly with the party getting away. Now safe, the group reconvenes and talks to its new member. Finally, we have Leaf, the third of our main trio. He is mysterious, cryptic, and cold, which will be funny later, perfect for the role of my favorite character. The rest of Snakemouth is full of exploration and puzzle solving, which is fun to play but not to watch, so I'll skip past most of it. The important parts include Leaf finding out he can cast ice magic, which makes my previous comment slightly funny. If it wasn't funny, don't worry. The game will make the same joke several times, in basically every description of Leaf, so you'll have ample time to find it funny. I also grabbed the Poison Resistance and Poison Defender medals. Poison Resistance isn't too important, only reducing a character's chance of getting poisoned, but Poison Defender will be quite important later on in the run. Effectively, when a character has this medal equipped, they gain 1 defense when they are suffering from the poison status condition, a stat that provides a flat damage reduction that gets quite strong when stacked. As they say, what doesn't kill you makes you substantially more resilient against enemy attacks. Additionally, I grabbed some crystal berries here, a currency that will only become important in Chapter 3, but I just wanted to mention it here so I'd have 3 things to talk about for this section. After completing some light platforming puzzles that I nonetheless struggle with, I finally reach the boss room and get a final rematch against Spider, which is the legitimate name for this boss. The main problem with Spider is the fact that he gets 2 attacks in a turn and that he will summon help when at 17 HP or below. Not a terribly difficult fight, but considering our extremely limited options, it will require some creative thinking. The biggest problem for this section actually comes from my TP restriction, as it forces me to budget my TP usage for only 3 moves. To beat the boss, I give Kabu Poison Defender and set him in the front for the start, allowing him to soak up the early damage. After getting the Spider down to 19 HP, I burst it using Vi's Tornado Toss and normal attacks from the others, getting it down to a solid 9 HP for the final push. When the Spider summons back up, Leaf's Ice Fall freezes both the Spider and the mushroom behind it, allowing me to fully kill the Spider with 1 more Tornado Toss and a normal attack. The rest of the enemies aren't that difficult, with them going down after I have to revive Kabu from some bad targeting luck. Overall, it was pretty convincing. I even said so during the stream. And that was pretty convincing. See, like I said, it was pretty convincing. With the boss defeated, the party is washed away by the river, sorta like my hopes and dreams down the toilet, except unlike those, the party is washed up on a riverbed downstream with the artifact in hand. They walk back to the kingdom and are greeted by the Adventurer Association worker Edel, where they are expressly allowed to work as a trio and finally given the name Team Snakemouth due to clearing Snakemouth Den. Naming things is certainly not a strong suit of these bugs. The party is then directed to talk to the Queen about their discovery. Here they get some money and are told about their next objective. There are whispers of an artifact in the nearby Golden Hills. After the talk, Leaf reveals that the Queen he knew before entering the cave was this one's mother. It seems that Leaf is from the distant past, yet he is here now, like a time traveler, but worse. Since I'm not one to do what's asked of me, I do some errands before continuing with the story. First, I pick up and equip the Hard Hits medal, which increases the damage enemies do by 25%, the post-block modifier rounded down to a minimum of +1. That was a lot of words, so let me give you some examples. If an enemy were to do 1 damage after a super block, it would instead do 2. 6 damage would turn to 7, and 8 damage would turn to 10, so on and so forth. With the increased damage from tough bugs already in play, my characters will likely start to get one shot after a few more chapters, but that's a problem for future me. Also, I make a delivery for Edel, and once done, I talk to Edel again and finally gain the ability to rank up. But since capitalism has infected even this fantasy world, this costs me quite a bit of money. Definitely due to good planning and not just dumb luck, I have enough money at this moment to level up to rank 4, getting Kabu Heavy Strike, a great skill to help me complete this next part. Finally done with my preparations, I start the journey to the Golden Fields, stopping briefly to interrupt a mugging. The enemy is a Wasp Trooper, a generally easy to beat foe, but with the Hard Hits medal equipped, coupled with my inability to press buttons correctly, he can easily down either Vi or Leaf if I don't block. Thankfully, with the Heavy Strike skill I recently acquired, I can pierce his high defense to deal decent enough damage to finish the fight without incident. With that, the path to the Golden Hills is open, and after dodging enemies almost as well as I dodge social interaction, I finally make it to the Golden Settlement. Here I open up a fast travel point back to the Ant Kingdom to prepare for some farming I need to do in order to survive the next mini-boss, Acolyte Area, but that will have to wait till next episode. Thank you for watching all the way through. If you liked the video, I'd be grateful if you'd subscribe so you get an alert when I make the next part. Whether you do or you don't though, I hope you have a good day.